The following program is produced by the Tech Talk Radio Network.
Hi, this is Bill Gates, and I listen to Tech Talk Radio.
Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk Radio. We are the show that talks about computers, technology, and the internet. Of course, on this Memorial Day weekend, a lot of people doing stuff. Of course, Shawn is heading up to the, I believe he calls it the Upper Peninsula, where he vacations. He's taking the camper with him. He's got it all tricked out and does some really cool stuff with technology. So that's how he's enjoying this Memorial Day weekend as well. But I figured, you know what? Let's go ahead and push forward and let's put together a show for you that, you know, maybe we can cover some of the stuff that you've been thinking about. And when it comes to technology, you wanted to get some answers with as well. And when we talk about answers, we talk about those listener questions, and we love those. Now, anytime you want to drop us a line, you can do that on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Tech Talkers. That's TechTalkers. If you're not on the Facebook, but you have an email address, you can email us, techguys, TechGuys, at TechtalkRadio.com. You can also follow us on the World Wide Web at TechtalkRadio.com. We had a form set up years ago that you could submit your questions there, and then I'm not sure changes, etc. happened. Now, hopefully we'll get that re-implemented so you could just do that right there on our website at TechtalkRadio.com. Also, I just want to remind you, too, if you want to see some cool videos, see videos from the shows that we do, you could find those on our web YouTube page, which is Tech Talk Radio. All right, so speaking of questions, we have a question in from Cecilia. Cecilia has a mom that is a little older and does communicate with an iPhone. The only problem is Cecilia's mom ended up typing the wrong code on her iPhone. That's happened to me before, and mine was crazy because mine was in my pocket. And it kept, I didn't have it. I didn't have it to go to sleep, so it was on. So, and that could be bad because it could actually phone, accidentally phone. They call it butt dialing. It could phone somebody, but it kept trying to log in with the wrong password. And next thing you knew, I was locked out. And that's what happens with your iPhones. If you enter the wrong password after so many times, it will lock. And sometimes it'll say locked for 24 hours, locked for 48, locked for 28 weeks, either way. So, and this can be a lifeline for a lot of people. And unfortunately, if this happens, what are the options? Well, one thing is you can usually re-enable your device if it's an iPhone or an iPad. And we're talking about the Apple platform here. You can re-enable the device, Cecilia, by logging into the iCloud account on the computer. Now, that's if there is a computer, and that is one way to do it. The problem is, and Cecilia's full email tells us that her mom doesn't remember her username. Now, this might be a little investigating on your part. You may have to go into your, again, you can check her computer if she has one to see if she's ever sent out an email, if she's logged into her iCloud. If you type in, iCloud.com, does it come up and auto-propagate the username? Even if it doesn't do the password, at least you have the username. That can be a benefit. But, or if you've ever emailed, mom, sometimes it's better just pick up the phone and call. But if you've ever emailed mom, it might be in there as well. But if there's no go on that one, one of the other options you have at this point, if it's completely locked out, and I will say this one that shouldn't go first, but you can reset the phone. Now, the problem with resetting the phone is if your mom has taken a lot of photos, Cecilia, your mom has notes, your mom likes to keep all her texts. If she does text, that can be a problem because then that can wipe that all away. And that's why I always recommend, backups. Get your parents, your kids, whoever, yourself, if you've got an iDevice, even an Android device too, to make backups, because you never know when something like this happened. I've heard stories of people not only being locked out of their devices, but their devices being lost or stolen. And then, they lose access to everything. So that's one way. Then next step. And you can't expect it to work right away. This could take actually a little bit of time. If you have the proof of purchase, if you have documentation, and if your mom could go with you, that's great. In this case, Cecilia said that her mom was hospital bound. She was in the hospital, so but she wanted her to have her smartphone. That one thing you could do is you could visit in an Apple store. Now, for those of us in the Tucson area, if you're listening outside of the Tucson area, you may want to check to find out where your Apple store is. They can be helpful. You can go in there and you could explain the situation. If you have your mom's ID, again, proof of purchase, you may be able to appeal to one of the geniuses there, and they may be able to help you get that phone reset. But again, there is a possibility you could lose all that. Now, there is some really good discussions on the Apple website. You may want to take a look and jump online to support.apple.com. Again, you would need an internet connection, a cable that could charge the smartphone if it hasn't been charged. And again, it can be Mac or PC, but that's one way to get her done. Now, some people have said in the past, well, what about Face ID? If you're with your mom and it has a Face ID set up, you could try that too. That could be another one where, you just look at the phone, it recognizes, and it can reset that way. So, I'm sorry, Cecilia, that's honestly a really bad thing to happen when it gets locked out. It can be super frustrating, but hopefully that will help you. I'd love to know, how that worked out for you. In our TV tech segment that we do on News 13, you can see those generally every Monday. We do those on KMSB Fox 11 right after the 8 o'clock hour. We've been doing those since, I want to say, we started in 2004. We started at KWBA. We did a couple of segments there, and it was a lot of fun. Apple sent us, I remember the first one we did, they sent us the big old huge iMac, which was great. We got a chance to talk about those. But again, we're talking way back, 2003, 2004. And then over time, we ended up, the producer who put that segment together, Stephanie, ended up moving over to KOLD, and she brought me on to KOLD, and we would do a segment, we called it Tech Tuesday. So every Tuesday we would go in and we'd show something. And back then, in the mid-2000s, towards the late 2000s, it was so easy to get product. Because, the internet was growing. Influencers were not really a thing yet. So me, as a little guy doing a TV segment in Southern Arizona, I could just jump on the phone and call a representative at Apple. I could call a representative at Verizon. I could call a representative at Microsoft. I could call a representative at Adobe and just say, hey, I'm putting together this segment. I want to feature the product. And they would just do all kinds of great stuff. And they would send over the product, and we get a chance to look at it for a couple of weeks and send it back. But it was always easy to get stuff in our hands. And boy, that has changed. TV kind of, it's still we love our segment, and TV segments have been great, but the influencers kind of took over that, because here I am in a TV market, and yes, we do put our segments online and people do watch them, but the TV market takes a back door to influencers. They reach a wide audience with TikTok and Facebook and Instagram Reels and Snap. Well, Snap, I don't know if Snap really is used by influencers, but I mean, they really, YouTube Shorts have done a great job in building their audiences, and there's some really great YouTubers out there that do great job with information about tech. And they've done a great job with it, but it used to be super easy. It's not as much this anymore, but it was cool. We were able to put together a segment this past Monday, and we talked about a growing trend in the tech world called software as a service. Now, you may remember in years past, you would go and you would buy a software for doing a task. We'll take, for example, just take one big example, was Intuit. Intuit, which their tech support, I believe, was located here in Tucson. I don't know if it still is. But say QuickBooks. For many that were starting a small business, QuickBooks was one of the easiest to use, one of the most full-featured. You would go out and you would buy the software. And I want to say it could run anywhere from $150, $300, $400. All right. But you could use it for as long as you had it. Now, over time, a company like QuickBooks or Intuit would introduce new features. Like if you want to do job costing, you wanted to share it with the other users, maybe in your office that would put together statements or quotes or invoices, and you could have more users that would be using it. And of course, Intuit changed its business model to make that available. A lot of people loved it. I mean, I loved it. I was a QuickBooks user from the very beginning. And software as a service came along. And what happened is, and it's only taken me recently to realize that, okay, it makes sense. And I know that's probably taken off some people who have bought software and they get upset because maybe they're not able to use that software anymore. And I'll get to that in a second. And I've talked about the issues I did have with Adobe. But what happens is these companies, they continue to innovate. They don't just put out a software and say, here's the software, use it. Now, for many of us, that was great. QuickBooks was phenomenal. It did exactly what you needed it to do. I go back on my years past and I look at some of the invoices for my business. I had a first desktop publishing business, then computer repair business that I would do. Even here at this radio station that we broadcast on, I was actually hired as a videographer before I was ever a DJ on this station. I had done radio, and I love the story about this one. I had done radio in Tucson. We had a #1 morning show for a couple of years. We had a lot of listeners that would tune in. And we had moved here from Palm Springs, where we also did very good. Me and my former partner, Barry Donovan, who is no longer with us. But we had a pretty great morning show. And then when things started to change in radio, and the market kind of went boom and bust, then it was trying different things. Went over to a couple different stations. This show somehow just kept surviving and would show up at different stations. And it was great. This station, the show, if you don't know, came with me from Palm Springs, and it was cool. And I ended up doing a lot of video. It's what I was doing in the late '80s, and we're talking analog. I'm editing on 3/4-inch videotape, and I saw an ad in a radio magazine that would hire radio talent. And the ad was for videographer, and it was for the station here. I thought, I'll go find out what's going on. And so I went and met with the owner of the station, and we talked about video and told me some of the things he wanted to do, and I was hired. And it was on a piece-by-piece basis. And it was great. I would go ahead and he'd say, okay, can you go over to Dwight's Auto Glass or Arizona Family Restaurant? And I would go in there and I would shoot videos, and it was awesome. And the pay wasn't that great. Sorry, boss, but it was still good because it kept me working, and I was able to do other radio things as well. And we ended up doing Tech Talk Radio just on the web at that point. And it was a lot of fun. And one day I was talking to our former program director here, Tom Lang, and I was videotaping an event for them over at Desert Diamond Casino. And I told Tom, I said, boy, I miss radio. And he goes, wait, you did radio? And I said, yeah. And I said, did radio in Tucson? And he'd never heard of the show I had done. So much for our #1 ratings. And he said, well, heck, if we ever have a part-time position, open up or fill in, you want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And that's how they found out I did radio, and I ended up doing radio here at this station. And I've been with the station now since 2009. Brought Tech Talk over here, I want to say about 2014. It was something I always wanted to do, is bring it to the station. It was just a matter of having the right slot and the right spot. So I'm very appreciative for the owners letting us do this tech show. And I do hope this helps some of you, that when you run into a tech situation, we're able to do that for you. Now, I kind of strayed a little from the story about, how software as a service has changed things. We looked at QuickBooks, and QuickBooks, yeah, it was great for a lot of us that just needed to do an invoice. And I'll be honest with you, I went ahead and I moved to the subscription model. And the subscription started off relatively inexpensive, but every year they added new features that I wasn't using, and the price continued to grow. And I finally decided to opt out when we got to, I want to say $400, maybe $500 a year to use the software. Oh, yeah. So you might remember QuickBooks. You might remember when you could go into the computer store and it wasn't that much. But now, you want a subscription to that. It's going to cost you a lot more. Now, the engineers have done some more things, but as a small business, it may not be exactly what you really needed. We saw the same thing with Microsoft Office. You might remember having Microsoft Office when you would go and you would buy Office 2003, 2004, and you would buy that. You got Microsoft Word, you got Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, you got some of the other programs that came with that, Outlook, and it was great. But then they continued to innovate, and you suddenly needed to buy a subscription to be able to use the Microsoft platform. Well, a lot of people hung on to using Microsoft Word, some of the older versions, and it can still be done. People are still doing it. Same goes with Intuit. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, I still use Intuit QuickBooks 2013. It works for me. I'm not paying a subscription. It's the old one I had. They didn't do dirty pool by turning off their activation servers, at least at the time when I installed it a few years back, and it worked for me. So that worked out pretty good. Then you came across some companies that, when you bought a software, you'd have to register it and activate it, and you could have it on one computer, maybe two computers, or four, or maybe you'd be able to use it on multiple computers, but never at the same time. So whenever you logged in to your program, it would send a login to that company. And one of those companies that had done that in the past, that you could buy the software direct, you just buy it and use it forever, was Adobe. And I had issues, and I've talked about with Adobe, because what I ran into is they turned off their activation servers. So say you had a program, and in the radio business, Adobe Audition was one of the finest audio editing programs for just getting commercials made. You would do it for even podcasters could use it. And what happened is Audition 1.5 and Audition 3, they turned off the activation servers. So what happens is, say you had to reinstall your computer and you didn't uninstall it, you ran into these issues. And if your hard drive died, you had to reinstall, you didn't have a backup. You suddenly may not be able to use that program anymore, and you had to switch to software as a service and use their Creative Cloud program. And that's what a lot of people had to do. Well, we know that October coming up is going to be the big Microsoft change from Windows 10 to Windows 11. And I know a lot of you are on Windows 10 and your computers may not qualify to upgrade to Windows 11. There's a couple of things you need. Ed Bott over at ZDNet put together a great article about that. I'd recommend taking a look. Again, Ed Bott, B-O-T-T. You can do a Google search for that, and ZDNet, and just do Google search for upgrading to Windows 11 Ed Bott, and he kind of breaks down the entire process for you and why maybe you're not able to, or what you need to do to make it possible. Don't know if Microsoft's going to change too much before that happens. when it comes to the requirements, but it's going to cause a lot of mayhem for a lot of people. I ended up deciding, okay, I needed to have Windows 11 in my studio, especially when suddenly my networking stopped working, and after one of the updates from Microsoft. I've since got it working, so I'm happy with that. But I thought, yeah, maybe it's time. So I went to PC Parts Picker, which is a great website to go if you want to build your own computer. I decided, okay, I'm going to build a system, then I'm going to install Windows 11. I ended up going to Stack Social, which is a great place to go find some of those software programs, although they've run into some of that software as a service issue with some other software that they were selling. And I got it installed, and it was great. I had a Windows 11 machine running super fast, newer processor, newer than the Windows 10 machine I had in the studio that had the Adobe Audition Creative Suite 5.5 on it, and I loved it. Well, when I went to install the Creative Suite 5.5 from Adobe, I could not install it anymore. It said I had too many activations. I got in touch with a representative that was offshore for Adobe, and his exact thing for me was to tell me, oh, okay, uninstall it on your computer, deactivate it, uninstall it, and you should be able to use it on the new computer. Those words should have been taken into account. I went ahead and did that. So here I am. I took it off a computer that was working, Windows 10. It was great. Went to install it. Too many activations. So when I called back, of course, I've got another tech support agent offshore who told me he could give me a great deal on the Adobe Creative Cloud. And I said, I've got Adobe Creative Cloud, which I do, courtesy of our friends at Adobe, and that expires this week. And I got a chance to look at it, and that was kind of cool, and I'll get to that coming up. But I said, okay, well, I just removed it, deactivated it, and he said, well, the problem is our activation server is no longer working. So this guy tells me to remove the software. I do, and it was working fine. And then when I go to reinstall it on the new computer, it won't install. There's nothing I can do. So PC Mover won't do it. There's just nothing I could do on that case. So it was a little frustrating. And I decided, okay, well, just going to have to stick with Creative Cloud. And I wasn't happy about it because Creative Cloud was, at the time, looks like it was going to cost me an investment of about $600, $700. It's a lot of money for a software. And I started playing around with it. I wanted to learn it. In the meantime, I also installed a couple other software programs, but I installed Adobe Creative Cloud on this new computer. And I got sold. It is an amazing software program. And I realized something. With software as a service, it's so easy for us to say, wait a minute, I bought this license, and this license was in, a perpetual license. That meant I could use this software forever. And it does exactly what I need. And that's true. But the problem is the innovation that takes place with some of these companies in the software. And I know this is probably not going over well with some, but the innovation is pretty amazing. What they've been able to do with Premiere Pro. Now, put together videos. Premiere Pro with the new generative extend using AI features is pretty awesome. I tested it out. I needed 5 seconds extra for a video project. With generative extend, you have your video on the timeline and you say, gosh, I need 5 more seconds. You can highlight and tell it, do a generative extend here. And it can take it and turn it into, whether it's a human being, a car, a sunrise, it can give you that extra 5 seconds. You can now caption your videos. You can also foreign language caption your videos with Adobe Premiere Pro Creative Cloud. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing stuff. Photoshop with the generative fill. Again, adding to a photo, making it faster for you to do your edits, giving you more control over those edits. That is pretty amazing as well. Adobe Audition giving you more features as well. But what really, really blew me away this past week is playing around with Firefly, Adobe Firefly. And you could do the same thing and start testing it out where it takes, and again, I know a lot of us are not big fans of the term, when it comes to the AI, artificial intelligence, but it can do some pretty amazing things there. Text to video. Oh, I want to create something that looks good. How about a sunrise over the cactus in the sweltering deserts of Tucson? It did it. Or a photo of an angry sun. It could be a graphic you want to use for a flyer. So if you are a professional, you may find that the Adobe Creative Cloud Pro may be just what you really need to use. And you need, it's difficult to get out of the mindset, well, it did everything before that I needed, and I don't need all this AI. Take a look at it. The unfortunate side is the price just went up. In June, they're changing to the Adobe Creative Cloud Pro, which will again give everything, but it's adding about $10 a month to the program. You could still end up spending about $800 a month. And you may have some features when it comes to the artificial intelligence, maybe not all, but it is something you may want to take a look at. There'll be another tier of service for the Creative Cloud. You could look at that as well. I don't know if, and I've asked the reps at Adobe, could they just turn on the servers again? Let people register their software that had to upgrade to Windows 11, that still will be fine using that. Don't know if that's going to happen. I have to assume it's not. But give Adobe Creative Cloud a try. It's a free trial for you to give it a look, but take the time to actually get into the program and use it and see if that maybe works for you. And again, I did some video samples on the segment for television this week. So when we want to think software as a service is just a way for them to get more money out of us, yep, they are. It's fueling that innovation, paying for the engineers to do the creation of the software that can benefit us more. So something to think about. And again, you can find out more at adobe.com. Take a look at Firefly that's on there. And again, try the trial version for that. We're going to take a quick break. We come back with more of Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor. Find us on the web at TechtalkRadio.com.
And now, back to Tech Talk Radio.
I always like to fill you in on software that you may want to be checking out and hardware that has some cool things that are a part of it. And one of them that I thought actually was really pretty neat that you may like is from a company called Solis. And we've talked about Solis before. If you have a smartphone that has a hotspot, you know what I'm talking about, that hotspot. That gives you the ability to access the World Wide Web from just about anywhere, which makes it nice. You could also use your smartphone as a hotspot so that your laptop can connect to it. Well, Solis or SIMO has put together what they're calling the Solis Hub. Now, here's what it is, and I kind of like this. It's what they're calling a cutting-edge home router featuring a 4G LTE backup powered by SIMO's virtual SIM technology. So imagine you maybe have a cable service or you have a satellite service that's providing you with your internet. And unfortunately, it goes out. And you're working on a project. You've got to get this project finished. You want to get it all done. Well, with the Solis Hub, and again, this is a hub that can, you can still power it off your regular internet service, but when it goes down, you've got that 4G LTE backup powered by this virtual SIM technology. It keeps homes connected during internet outages, gives you uninterrupted connectivity when it's needed. And it looks just like a regular home router, which I love. So it does 4G LTE backup. So it'll automatically switch to that 4G LTE during the internet outages. and can give you download speeds up to 300 megabits per second, and even upload speeds where some of us are saying, good, I get 20 megabits per second. It could give you upload speeds, depending where you're at, about 150 megabits per second. Features dual band Wi-Fi 6 support, which means that like a router, it's connected in your home, and you'll be able to connect all your devices to this router that is normally working off your regular, subscribed services. And then if those subscribed services go down, it switches to the 4G LTE backup. It can do 802.11a, B, G, N, AC, or AX for that performance. Now, here's what's really cool about it. Now, remember, there is a subscription that will go with this, but the product itself you buy outright for $199. At least that's the pricing that they're looking at. It's available for purchase now. You could do to simo.com or .co. That's SIMO.co. And then there are plans that are available. You could get, and remember, I don't think you would be using this all the time, right? The 10 gigabit per month plan from Solis, the Solis hub. Remember, it wouldn't be using it all the time, only if, your internet goes out. We're coming up on monsoon season, so that could happen. 10 gigabits per month for only $7. Okay, that doesn't seem too bad, right? Now, if you don't use it, it doesn't roll over, but 10 gigabits for $7. If you need the hot backup plan, which I'm not sure exactly what that is, you'd have to find out on the Solis website, simo.co. That's 10 gigabits per month for $25. I have a feeling that might be your smartphones, etc. The primary plan, though, if you want to get that, that's 100 gigabits per month. That's a lot of data for $89. So, I don't know what you're paying your cable provider now. For some, they might say that's going to work out better for them. And then you would use that all the time. Anyway, that's something to think about. That is, again, from Solis. It's Simo, SIMO.co. If you want to get more information about that product. Another one that I really like that has been announced from Epson, and if you've seen any of the segments I've done with the Epson Fast, they got the Epson Fast Photo, which does scanning photos very fast. I'm getting that and incorporating it into my desktop publishing and website business, and we're doing digital scanning for people. But they've kind of gone in different areas. They also have the Epson Rapid Receipts for, doing your receipts super fast. Well, now they've introduced the Sure Color F1070 and what this can do. And I got a friend that owns Aladdin Graphics, and Aladdin Graphics they specialize in this. So I would still say contact them, but the Sure Color F1070 can print directly onto shirts. The quality, pretty impressive. So imagine, you're coaching a Little League team here in Green Valley, Sahuarita, or you get together with a company picnic and you want to have everybody have the same shirts. You're celebrating the anniversary of your company and you want to create your own shirts. Sure, you go out, you buy the shirts, and then you go ahead and you get them printed. You do the printing. Right? With the Sure Color F1070, you can look it up on the Epson website. But here is the downside of that. And that's when you might want to pick up the phone and call Troy over at Aladdin Graphics. It will cost you about $7,500 to buy this printer. Now, some might say, well, I'm a little entrepreneur. I could start doing my own T-shirts. Sure. That's something you could think about. Got to take in project cost, how you're going to get that business, etc. But Epson doing this so that people that want to have full control over their printing process, or again, want to make their own shirts, they can do that. But again, that's the Sure Color F1070. And you'd be able to find that there. Let me tell you about another product. Here we go. All right. Not long ago on television, I showed the Palm. And some people said, whatever happened to the Palm? They got bought by HP. And that was kind of the end of that, right? Well, I had the old Palm. You might remember the Palm Pilot or the Trio or the Palm smartphone. And I ended up finding it. And I just remembered how, when you text with the Palm, how easy it was. You didn't have that on-screen keyboard. Some of you really hate that, the Android or the iPhone on-screen keyboard. Well, the Palm Pilot or the Trio, you had actually keys. People love that. And you wanted to maybe switch the numbers, you hit one button and you could do that. And you could text with it very easily. Fit right in the palm of your hands. You still had a nice screen on it. Wasn't as nice as the screens you get now with the Androids, like the Pixel 9 or the latest iPhone, or even the Samsung Galaxy devices. But it was cool to be able to have those keys. Well, you can have those keys with the Clicks keyboard cases. And if you've scrolled on the web and you've looked for a replacement phone, or if you looked for mobile keyboards, you probably have been fed an ad with the Clicks keyboard. Now, how it works, it's basically looks just like this keyboard, maybe even a little bigger on the keys. And it works with the Google 9, Pixel 9, Galaxy S25, Motorola Razr Plus. It doesn't look like it's available on the Pro XL yet. I don't know. That could have changed by press time. But if you want to see these and you want to actually use a keyboard, I would really recommend jumping onto the World Wide Web and going to clicks.tech. That's clicks.tech. That's CLICKS.tech. And your phone actually plugs in, like kind of snaps in to this device which holds your phone. I believe it has the wireless on the back, so you could, smart charge it. You then have a physical keyboard for your smartphone. So if you've gotten to the point where you're just fed up with that keyboard, I'm one of those. I use voice to text quite a bit, and it always gets it wrong. But again, if you are fed up with that and you want to actually have a physical keyboard, you might want to take a look at that. They're not inexpensive though. While you could go out and buy a Logitech K480 for right around $50, this sells for around $139. But again, it plugs into your phone, plugs right into it, and you can carry it around that way. So again, that might be something that you might want to think about doing. $139, clicks.tech, and you get more information there about this device. And again, you may like that. All right, top 10 passwords used in the United States have been revealed. And I'm not looking at you, but if you use this, you want to stop using it immediately. According to a study that was put together by, I want to say this was malware. Was this Malwarebytes? Well, here it is. The second most common password in the U.S. is 123456. That is ranked the most number one common password in the world. I know they're a pain in the butt. I know you have so many different logins, whether it be a company you do business with, or logging in to pay your smartphone bill, your bank account, the whole bit. It could be a pain in the butt. 123456 people are using that. That's the most common password in the U.S. and the number one common password in the world. The easy to guess passwords that rank from 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the most common in America, are password. The next one is QWERTY. QWERTY 123. And if you're wondering where that comes from, QWERTY was once used as a demonstration on your username and password. Somebody said, I'll use that as my password. Not good. QWERTY is the top line next to the tab on your most keyboards. QWERTY, then 123. Don't want to use that one as well. All right. That is the 4th most common password in America. The next one is QWERTY, and then just number 1. QWERTY 1. So if you're wondering, 7th and 8th on the list are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 6th. 7th is password 1. Again, don't use that. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 comes in at number 8. Ninth and 10th on the most common passwords among Americans. Don't be writing these down and using these. Please don't. If you're using them, change them. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then ABC 1, 2, 3. Now, the thing is, you may think, well, what does it matter? I'm using this. I'm the only one who knows the username. People are phishing, which basically means they're trying to find out your username. You may accidentally give that up. And then once they have that, it's all about finding out which password you're using. The number one most common password in the U.S., do not use this. If you are using it, please change it, is secret. S-E-C-R-E-T, secret. Now, here's what I'd recommend. Now, you may say, well, what about those password managers that are a part of Google or even Microsoft Edge? I have used those in the past, and I would say don't. Somebody could get onto your browser if you're logged in, and they can figure out those passwords, see them very quickly, take screenshots. What I honestly recommend is a product called 1Password. The number 1 password. You don't want to use that one either, 1Password, but use the software program. You set it up. You have a secret code to get in. And then there are all your passwords. Anytime you want to create a password, you could create a super long password that within your browser, it will remember it. Within your smartphone, it can remember it. And you want to use difficult passwords, longer passwords to hack, longer passwords for somebody to try and crack. And again, you can add this to your safe deposit box. So in case of medical emergency and you don't have access to your devices, somebody else does, they'll still be able to access that with that long secret code that you would be given. 1Password. The software program itself, not very expensive. I want to say under $50, might be like $39. But I'd really recommend installing that. You could install it on all the browsers you use, and it's a great way to maintain and secure your password. So don't fall into that trap of just 1, 2, 3, ABC. Secure your password. All right, we're going to take another quick break. We come back with more of Tech Talk Radio, hopefully providing some great information for you on this Saturday afternoon. Thanks for listening.
Now, back to Tech Talk Radio.
After I decided I needed to take a look at some different software programs that may enable me the opportunity to create after I found out that my Adobe Creative Suite was no longer going to be able to work because I wasn't able to install it on the computer that I had updated to Windows 11. And I started looking for other programs to do tasks. Now, we've mentioned it before, Shawn. Told us about Alternative 2, and you can go to, on the World Wide Web, alternativeto.net. And what you do is you enter the program name that maybe you're using, and it will suggest some alternatives for you. So that way, if you're used to using one program to get something done, like maybe you used Photoshop Express or Photoshop, or even some of the other program, Corel. They used to use the Corel Photo Paint program, and you want to use something else. Well, you can type that in. GIMP may come up. People still use GIMP. They love GIMP. It's an alternative to that program. And so I ended up just asking a couple of my friends that work in the biz, and it was kind of interesting for radio. For me, it's always been Adobe Audition. There is a program that I know of that's available out there. If you want to, maybe you want to create your own podcast and you would like to do stuff. It's called Audacity. And again, you'll find that available on alternative2.net, at least the link for that. Make sure when you're getting software programs, you're getting it from the authentic, authorized website. You got to be real careful because fakes can be set up pretty easily that could actually hurt your system. So Audacity is good. There's some neat features on it. It's a matter of learning the program and how it works differently than Adobe Audition. Like when you export a project, you export the file itself. I've had some people have used Audacity that send me a file, and that file is still in the Audacity format. So, you're sending it as a WAV or an MP3, that type of situation there. So again, Audacity is pretty good. But I did use a couple of programs that I wanted to just give kind of the heads up of the programs that I used. First off is a program called Reaper, Reaper. Now, it's not a free program. It is a paid program. They'll give you a 60-day trial window to use it. But the cost to acquire the Reaper program on your system, which can be installed on 2 systems, not at the same time, is, I want to say, around about $70. But it will allow you to edit audio, which actually I really got used to using the Reaper program. I liked it. It has some great features, great easy editing tools that are a part of it. And again, that's Reaper. You can download it, give it a try for 60 days, and see if you like it, and see if that's something that you might want to use. The other program that I used for that, and I ended up stumbling across this. So I have a small mini mixer that I use when I do videos or when I'm doing the podcast training sessions. I've taken it out with me. So that way the kids on the reservation, that's where I went last week, they end up being able to talk into the microphones, and I give them kind of an overall about podcasting and how cool it is. And it's always a lot of fun. Knowledge and Learning is a group that put that together. John Proudstar is a local artist and actor, and he was out there as well, so it was pretty cool. But I buy the Mackie product, and I know there's other mixers on the market, and mixers, what that is it takes your audio input. So you have one mixer, one microphone, right? And then maybe you have another audio input. So you put 2 microphones. So you can do a discussion with both microphones and use the mixer to bring that all down into one audio file. And Mackie makes a whole bunch of them. I previously used the Mackie 1402 VLZ, which was a multi-channel mixer, and it was great. But it would plug in to the computer using a Scarlett box by Focusrite, or I would have the Creative Labs external sound card and would plug into that, which would plug into the computer. And it was nice, but again, just more cables laying around. What I like about the one that I use from Mackie, the Pro FX6 X3, it actually connects via USB. So you can record, 2 microphones. You could have another source as well for line in, or you could do, upgrade your mixer, the Pro 8, the Pro 10, to get more lines, more microphones, depending on what you're doing. But and then it outputs via USB into the USB in and becomes a sound device on your computer. So that works out really good. You could even apply effects to it, the whole bit. And I bought mine some years ago, and I've been using it. And the other day when I was putting everything together to head on out to the reservation over at the Boys and Girls Club there in Levine, I noticed on the box it said Pro Tools. You got a license for Pro Tools that came with the mixer. And it was Pro Tools version Pro. There's different levels, but I thought, let's try that. So I installed it on the computer, and it is amazing. I used it one time in a broadcast environment, not here, but in another one, and I wasn't a big fan of it because I didn't understand it. I didn't have the time to go through it, but I've had the time to sit and play and really kind of experiment and learn. There's lots of great videos online, but Pro Tools really kind of surprises me. So again, that is one that's going on my new computer. Even though it looks like I am going to bite the bullet and do the Creative Cloud Pro, I will have this on another computer and Pro Tools for some basic editing. And if you want to experiment, you want to play around with some of this editing with audio and put together a podcast, I recommend that. Now, I also showed some products from Fifine, Fifine. And not long ago, I bought a microphone from Fifine from the Super Sale Bin store, of course, that we have here in Green Valley, Sahuarita. And it was a great deal. I got it for, I want to say it was a $15 day. So it was, the opening day. But I ended up getting this microphone and I love it. I've since bought a mixer that they put out from Fafine. It is not bad, but there is something you need to know about that. And then the Fafine AM8 microphone. The Fafine AM8 microphone can plug in via USB or USB-C, or it can plug in an XLR, which could be very helpful depending on the mixer you're plugging it into. If you're using a mixer, the mixer that Fafine put out, unfortunately, has one input. That's it. And I would say, don't waste your time. If you're going to get a mixer, get at least one that has two audio inputs for microphones. I would recommend that, and that's why I recommend the Pro FX6X3 by Mackie, Mackie. You can find more information about that online and not waste the time with the Fafine mixer. But their Fafine microphone, the pickup quality on it's not bad. It's RGB, so if you're doing video that goes along with your audio, it looks pretty smart. I mean, it's got a nice color to it, and the audio pickup on it is pretty good as well. So again, you can find those Fafine, Fifine. There is a better microphone that's available on the market. Most radio broadcasters, you'll see them, and even in podcasters, you'll see them using the SM7B microphone. Now, it's a pretty pricey microphone. It runs about $350, $400. You may even be a little higher than that. That microphone's got great pickups. It's the one I'm using right now, and it's good. But they have a better one out now, and I'm hoping to get my hands on one to try it out. It's the Shure SM7DB. And what they've basically taken is Cloud Lifter, which is a great device, which gives a little more oomph, a little more power to the audio chain. It's kind of built in. So you get this really dynamic sound, and podcasters, radio broadcasters are loving it. So again, that's the Shure SM7DB. All right, got to take a quick break. We come back with more of Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor. Find us on the web at techtalkradio.com. We'll be right back.
And now, back to Tech Talk Radio.
This is Stephen Wright. You're listening to Tech Talk Radio.
Yeah,
That?
something along that line.
Yeah, I guess that was it. All right.
Let's go with it. I love it.
No, I'll say it anyway. Hi, this is Stephen Wright, and you're listening to Tech Talk Radio. But, I've already been saying that.
This is the time of the show that we'd like to share with you a cool website of the week. Sometimes it's a product of the week. And I decided I wanted to come up with a website that you could enjoy when this show is over. We're back to your familiar favorites that you could actually have some fun with and tell your friends about. So there are lots of great websites that are out there. There are that you can have some fun with. We've talked about some of those in the past, like the Lazy Fly, which I think is a good one. But here's one that is just a collection of just websites that you can find. You go to theuselessweb.com. theuselessweb.com. And it's going to be different for just about everybody, but I'm going to go here and you'll say, take me to another useless website, please. So once you're there, you hit please. And like for me, it came up with sliding toys, a daily puzzle. It has the date, shows that how many people have done that, and that whole bit. So you could do that one. If you don't like it, go to another one. The Long Dodge Challenge. Your Doge. Thank you. And it just, okay. There you go. You could print it. Again, useless website. Go to another one. Always judge a book by its covers. Some books win awards. Others, some win our heart. And others only serve to confuse. This book, it's an actual book. How to talk to your cat about gun safety. And again, you could find the link. You could actually listen to some of the book on Audible. Another book that they have, Outwitting Squirrels. More than 1 million squirrels outwitted. Here's another book, How to Survive a Garden Gnome Attack. Eating People is Wrong. Crafting with Cat Hair. cute handicrafts to make with your cat. And then one that I've actually heard of this book, and I saw this in there. It's called Florida Man. And for any of you from Florida, I apologize here, but what is some of the crazy stories that always start off with a Florida man, and then you go on from there. And again, you can find it at theuselessweb.com. Have some fun with that. Let me know what you come up with. Just drop me a line, Andy@TechtalkRadio.com. In the meantime, have yourselves a wonderful weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Thanks for all that have paid the ultimate sacrifice there in our hearts this weekend. I'm Andy Taylor.